Hello, welcome to the Republican Roundtable. I'm Jacqueline America, your host. Great guest, Ric Oliva is here. He's been a school teacher, he's been on the school board, author and musician, and he's here to talk about his new book. Help me out, Hay Problema.
There you go.
The
amazing story of Tony Oliva.
Tony Oliva, great Mr. Twin, right?
Yep.
It's a great Twins player. His whole season was with the Minnesota Twins, or his whole career was with the Minnesota Twins from what,
1961 is when he signed.
To 1976.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, he's he's one of the greatest hitters for the Minnesota Twins.
Yep. So he won. He won 3 batting titles. His first 2 years he won batting title. First and second year, he was the first player to do that. He might actually the only player to have done it. I don't know if anyone's done it since. Won a Golden Glove, was a 8-time All-Star.
Yeah, All-Star. Had a contention for World Series.
Yeah, so he was in the 1965 World Series, and then he was a coach on the 87 and 91 World Series teams.
Okay.
I haven't fact-checked this, so you might want to do this afterwards. Maybe some of your viewers will. But I'm pretty sure he's the only Twin that was in uniform at all 3 World Series. I think everyone else had either retired or moved on to other teams. So, since '91, after he retired as a hitting coach, they haven't been back. So, coincidence? I don't know.
Well, I can see where you'd be inspired to write a book about him. And also, he's one of the top Cuban players in the major leagues as well.
Yes.
So, what inspired you to write the book besides just being a great? He comes from very humble background in Cuba, growing up in Cuba. Your grandfather was a tobacco farmer. Is that correct?
Yep.
So tell us, where did this all start? Where did you come up with the book?
So it really started when my first child was born, and I was reading stories to him, and some of them would be inspirational, or it'd be about learning colors, or what are the different animals? And I was reading these books, and I was just thinking to myself, my dad's story would make a really good children's book, just because it's so inspiring, and it's about not letting whatever obstacles in front of you stop you from moving forward to try to achieve your dreams, right? And so the book, it starts with, little Tony Oliva was born in the Cuban countryside in a small town called Corralito, Crucero de Corralito in Cuba. And so he doesn't have, he loves playing baseball, but he doesn't have a bat and he doesn't have a ball. So what are you going to do? Like some kids here, he gets sad because he'll see all these empty baseball fields. He's like, oh, if this was Cuba, those would all be filled with children. Yeah. So what do you do if you don't have a bat? Well, you go find a tree and you cut a branch off the tree and now you have a stick. That's your bat. And if you don't have a baseball, what do? Well, he said we'd find a little piece of cork or a piece of rubber or a rock sometimes if we couldn't find anything. We'd take some tape and we'd wrap it, and then we'd have a baseball. And that's how they'd play. They didn't have bases and umpires. They'd get a patch of dirt. They'd put down an old shoe and say, okay, this is going to be one of the bases. That tree is second base, and then they just play with what they had. Sure. Everything from fishing poles, right? He loved fishing with his brothers. They would take big sticks and just put a string on it with a hook, and they put a little worm and put that in the water, and that's how they catch fish. And it is funny because I had the opportunity to travel to Cuba a few times and see what he's talking about, because some of those things are like, oh yeah, but Dad, that was 200 years ago. Like nobody lives like that. And it's funny. I have pictures of my kids, and they're playing baseball using just whatever they could find and using whatever they could find in the field for bases. And in my uncle, one of my uncle's house, he has a small pond, so I have pictures of my kids, and this is in like 2019, right? Not 1940, with the stick and the string, and they still do it that way, right? Because you just do what you can. Sure. Other things, and we might talk about his story a little bit more, but it was coming to the United States and seeing, he came on a contract. He didn't know the language. How do you deal with the language barrier when you don't speak the language?
Well, how was he scouted? How did they find him? I mean, we have social media and things like that today. During Cuba. I mean, how to the United States? How did that happen?
Yeah, so there was a scout named Roberto Tapanez, and he had heard about my dad, And so he went out to the country to go see him hit. And they were like, this kid can hit like nothing else. You won't believe it, right? And so he went out and saw him and was really astounded by the way that he could hit and how hard he could hit the ball. And so he had asked him, he said, would you like to be a professional baseball player? Tabanez was a professional baseball in the United States. He said, would you want to be a professional baseball player too? And my dad said, well, I don't really know what that is. I thought maybe one day I'd get to play in Havana. He said, but go talk to my parents. And if they say I can go be this baseball player, I'll do it. And so he talked to their parents, and they realized, like, no, this is an opportunity of a lifetime for you to go to the United States. So they offered him a contract in 1961 to come to the United States. He was going to be paid $250 a month, or 200 or 250. I don't remember. It's in the book.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was like $200 a month, and he said all of his friends thought he was going to be rich. So that's how he came here. As he was scouted, he had a contract. He came in April of 1961.
Okay. So he won, was it Rookie of the Year in 1964?
Yep.
64.
Nice.
So was he in the minor leagues, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so he came in 1961. He left in April 1961. And later that month, there was a Bay of Pigs invasion.
Wow.
So he was actually cut from the team.
Oh.
Because he came to the tryout, he came to spring training, basically, did the tryout camp. They're like, yeah, we don't have room for you, so we're going to send you back. Yeah. But he was stranded. So they're like, you can't go back. What am I going to do? They're like, well, I guess we'll give you another chance. You can go, we'll set you up in this hotel, and you have to walk to the ballpark. But if you get there, we'll let you work out with the team. And then eventually he proved himself good enough, right? And in the minor leagues, he was also hitting like crazy, had an over 400 batting average, which was nuts in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
When he finally got up to the big leagues in 1964, he was the Rookie of the Year and batting champion the same year.
Oh, wow.
And what's funny is, you look at these major league contracts now, so he always tells people, my first year, my major league contract first year was $6,000.
Oof.
And then he was MVP, he was a Rookie of the Year, batting champion, all-star, and so he got a raise to $13,000 his second year.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Wow, it's crazy.
But probably in 1965, that was probably a decent pay.
Sure.
But it's just funny compared to what the contracts are now. Today they make that an hour.
Sure. Well, and so not only coming from Cuba, but there's a lot of things going on in that time era. We had the Civil Rights Acts coming up through, and he didn't speak English as his first language. So the language barrier, how did that impact his career or just even life in the United States? Yeah,
so it was tough for him because he was here and he's like, people don't understand how lonely that was for me, speaking as my father, how lonely that was because he couldn't, there was no WhatsApp. There's no, cell phones where he could call his family. He said sometimes it would take him a month if he was trying to get a hold of his family because they didn't even have telephones. You'd call a neighbor that would say, Tony's going to try to call you on Sunday at 8 o'clock, and sometimes the call would go through, sometimes it wouldn't. There is a funny story, a cute story in the book where he says he didn't know how to order food at the restaurant, so one of his friends wrote on one side of the paper, ham and eggs, and on the other side it said fried chicken. Oh. And so he would just show the people, like, this is what I want. So there was that.
But he couldn't stay with the team.
And he couldn't stay with the team, yeah.
Was that in just certain states, or was that generally the case everywhere?
Yeah, that was down in the early days down in the South. So he'd have to stay in the black hotels. And I asked him, I was like, what exactly is a black hotel? And he said, well, a lot of times it would be more like, he described it looked more like a guest house. Like it would be smaller, where there'd be some rooms that the black players could stay in. They'd ride the same bus, but like they might be on a road trip and they're like, oh, we're going to stop at this gas station so you guys can go get some snacks and use the bathroom, and the black players wouldn't be allowed to go inside. Oh. Even when he was playing in some fields, and I talk about this in the book, there were some places where people would throw things at him. They'd tell him, go back to the jungle and play with the monkeys, and they just treat him horribly.
Kind of like what happened with Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. He saw that movie, and he's like, that is exactly how it was for us back then. But, the book, and I should maybe explain what this means. No hay problema. The literal translation is this is not a problem, right? And so he comes to when he's growing up, he doesn't have a baseball bat. This is not a problem. No hay problema. I'll get a stick and we'll use that for a bat.
Sure.
He can't speak the language. No hay problema. I'll have my friend write some notes on a paper and then I'll use that to help me get around.
Yeah.
When it came to the racism that he was facing on the field, there's no hay problema because he said the white teammates really protected the black teammates from a lot of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said, there's one place in particular where the manager just put him in. He was a right fielder. Mm-hmm. The manager was like, we'll have you play center. That way the people won't be able to get to you. They won't be able to bother you, right?
Yeah.
So it was always, how can we get through this? Another cute story in the book going by No hay problema that really blows people's minds is he signed his contract to come here. Mm-hmm. He didn't own a baseball glove.
Oh.
It's like, what?
Wow.
You're going to be a professional baseball player? You don't have a glove? He's like, no, my dad, he traded one of his pigs for a glove. There's a guy that had a glove, so he traded a pig. And it wasn't until just recently that I really thought of how significant that was. Because if you grew up on a farm, that pig, that was your income or your food. Mm-hmm. And so there was 10 kids in his family, to trade that pig so that way your son can go to another country and follow his dream. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a huge sacrifice that his dad made on his behalf. But there's no hay problema. Hey, don't worry, we'll make it happen. If you need a glove, I'll figure out a way to get you a glove.
Yeah, it's a great message. I mean, we could all learn from that, but also today with the younger generations, they get accused of a lot of not doing the work. And what were some of the challenges, just like career-wise, or besides, language and things like that? What did he go through? Any slumps or anything in his career? Or?
Yeah, so he was a good hitter, but in Cuba he never played at night before. Oh. And so night games really got him.
To see the ball.
And so he couldn't see the ball.
Yeah.
And so his fielding was terrible, right? He admits that his teammates that played with him in the minor leagues were like, Tony, how are you so bad at catching fly balls?
That is hard with the lights.
It is, yeah, because he had never played at night before. So we talk about that in the book also. I'm glad you're asking these questions because these are all like the stories that I tell that inspired me when I was growing up, and I wanted to share with the world. So so one of his greatest achievements was winning that Gold Glove, because his first year in the minor leagues, I don't even know. He said he got like 15 errors or something. He couldn't catch anything. And so he worked and worked and worked. So no hay problema. A lot of kids give up. And he says too many people give up too early on things. Mm-hmm. I'm not good right away, or they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe they can get better. Mm-hmm. And so he always believed that he could get better. And he said, I knew that I could hit, but if I wanted to be a professional, I had to be able to catch. Mm-hmm. And so he said he worked and worked and worked. And so even though he won 3 silver bats, 3 batting titles.
Wow.
He's most proud of his Golden Glove because he felt like he had to work the hardest in order to achieve that.
Right. Yeah. It's perseverance, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What growing up with him as a dad, did he coach any of your teams or anything like that?
No. So
the
first team that he coached that I was on, I was 44 years old.
Okay.
And so I'm the youngest of my siblings, and so I got to be around him more when he was coaching the Twins, but he was still gone all the time until like 1992.
Sure.
And then at that point, the teams that I was on, like, he wasn't the coach. It wasn't like Little League where the dad gets to be the coach. Mm-hmm. I was able to do that for my kids, but I joke and I say, I was 44 the first team that he coached, because there's an organization, or there's a event called the Minnesota Twins Fantasy Camp, which takes place in January every year. Okay. And it's at the Twins spring training facility, and so they get former players to be the coaches of the teams.
Yeah.
And my dad has been going down there for 30 years.
Okay.
And so I finally decided, like, you know what, I should go to this fantasy camp, see what it's all about. And so I went and did that, And so he got to be the coach on my team. And I was like, wow, finally. Like I always, when I was a little kid, I imagined that my dad and I would both be wearing jerseys on the field at the same time.
Sure.
And so that dream finally came true for me in 2020, January of 2020.
All right. Awesome. That's awesome. So you play ball too?
I did through high school. So yeah, at that fantasy camp game, I hadn't picked up a baseball bat. Well, I should say I hadn't played a game. I coached my sons in baseball, but I hadn't played a game in about 25 years. So I was a little rusty.
It's fun though. I coach too, my son's team too. So it's
Excellent,
very fun. And just looking at the book, the drawings, are really. It's really a cute book. I mean, it's very fun, and there's.
Kevin Cannon, the illustrator, did a fantastic job.
Yeah, and then there's like little facts, and it's really a fun little read. Who was there? I was going to ask you another question here.
Yeah, if people want to see where those pictures came from, if you go on YouTube and you search the book, there it is, ham and eggs and fried chicken.
I love that.
If they search the book on YouTube, I actually did an audio version of it where I show the pictures from the book and then I show the reference photos that I gave to the illustrator. Sure. And so, like, he got down everything from my dad's gold tooth to my grandpa's cowboy hat that he always wore, his sombrero. There's one scene in the book where we're sitting at a table, and it's my grandma, my grandpa, and my dad at the table. It's where he's presenting the gold glove. And I was looking at it, I go, wow. If you look at the table, the chair and the table and everything is exactly the same as the picture that I gave him. So he really used the colors and the architecture and tried to get it as close, still being illustrated and not photographs, but got it as close as possible. And then one of my favorite pictures, I don't know, let's see if I can find it, is when my dad finally did get in the Hall of Fame. If you search for Tony Oliva gets the call, you'll see this picture. I think I'll put it on that camera there. You'll see that picture where he's with my mom.
Yeah,
and so, he got that.
Number 6.
That perfect, because she wore her Oliva number 6 shirt when he was getting into the Hall of Fame. So that was...
Oh, that's darling. And when was he inducted into the Hall of Fame?
He got the call in December 21. Then the induction ceremony was in 22.
Okay. When does he talk about, when was the pinnacle of his career? When did he know that he made it? Was it...
I think...
I know about the statue, and that meant that's a big thing to him.
Yeah, so, throughout this process, coming up with this version of the book, I had an opportunity to interview my dad for about an hour and a half. So I have all these great raw footage and just talking about different things, and I had asked him, what does the statue mean to you? Because, you have the silver bats, you have the 8 times you're an all-star, you have the golden glove, you've done all this stuff, you got into the Hall of Fame, and he said, that statue really meant a lot to him. He's like, getting into the Hall of Fame is the biggest thing you can do as a player. It's the biggest honor as a player. But I think he felt as a person and showing what he meant to the community, that statue at Target Field really said that the community loved him, right? Because you can get in the Hall of Fame and people don't really like you, but they're like, yeah, you're an amazing ball player, right? Yeah. And so he wasn't in the Hall of Fame when he got the statue. Yeah. And so for the Minnesota Twins to build that statue and to have this big celebration and the unveiling ceremony and all this stuff really meant a lot to him, because I think it meant that regardless of any accolades, he's a beloved figure in the community. Yeah.
Well, he gave a lot to the community too. He's a giver, and we have pictures. My son and I have pictures with that statue, and I'm looking for them because it's really fun throughout the years too. They're really cute. There's good memories, and the Twins Stadium is pretty fun.
It's very cool.
What does he think about the future of the Twins? Was he just, is he still go-getter about it, or?
Yeah, he's still employed by the Twins.
Oh, okay.
So he's still worked with them since 1961. He's never worked for any other team, and he's still on their payroll.
Okay.
He still does public relations, and he still does events at the stadium, and he still does appearances. Like, people will, businesses will rent a suite, and they'll go through alumni relations and say, hey, do you have anyone to come, visit us? And they'll be like, oh yeah, we'll get Tony. He lives in town, so he'll come down there. So he's at the stadium. I wouldn't say he's there every game. Last year he had a stroke. And so he had been broadcasting the games on Sundays, I think Sundays and Tuesdays. And so he hasn't been back to broadcasting since then. He maybe did one game. I don't remember if he even got any in. But yeah, so he was very active up until he had a stroke last year, and then he was able to come back to the field in September of last year and kind of start doing things again and say hi to the fans. And so he was very excited. So I don't know what this year is going to bring for him.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to go to spring training, hopefully, in February.
Okay. Down in Florida?
But
Does he travel too? Does he go down to Florida?
Yep. So he'll go down to Florida, be at spring training. And so for him, I think whether the team does good or bad, he's like, you never know. He's like, in 1990, we were in last place. In 1991, we won the World Series. So you never know what's going to happen.
Well, that's a good thought, because this last season is.
The last season was tough.
What the heck are they doing?
Yep. They got a lot of Twins ownership got a lot of grief last year. With first we're going to sell the team, and then they decided not to. They got partnerships, but.
And then they let all those players go, which is then they're like a couple months later, like, well, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Well, and every Twins fan is like, duh. Yeah. So it's.
When people ask me, I just say, well, I'm not a billionaire, so I don't know the answer. Like, I don't have a say in the matter.
Right.
I figure at some level they know what they're doing. Maybe they were trying to reposition themselves for a reset. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe you can get one of them on the show next time. You can ask
show
them.
my elbow. How is that? Yeah.
But yeah, so but it doesn't matter. He's always positive.
Sure.
He's like, you can always win a game. So like here's an example of my dad's philosophy. So I asked him once, I said, oh, I forget who I was talking about, like Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens or something like that. I said, okay, so you have a rookie on the team, some new kid, and they're going to go in and they're going to hit Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, what do you tell him? He says, you don't hit the pitcher, you hit the ball. Watch the ball. Hit the ball.
Right.
So it's like to him, he's like, I don't care who's standing on the ball. They have to throw a strike, and if it's a strike, I can hit it. So hit the ball, right? And so I'm going, it seems simple, but that's what he does. Is he just breaks it down to the simplest, most common denominator of like, well, it's got to be a strike. So if it's in this zone, I know I can hit it. The bat can reach it. I'm not worried.
Yeah, there's some good quotes. Puckett was the spark, Oliva was the steady flame. Rod Carew is artistry, Oliva was a force. And this is my favorite one, is Killebrew scared pitchers and Oliva exhausted them. I love that.
Burt Blyleven, so one of the things too is my dad gave me a lot of some phone numbers of people to call and get some quotes. And so where's Burt's quote? I think I put the whole quote in here.
Yeah. Bert's one of my favorites too.
Where did it go? Said, the man is an inspiration. The last guy a pitcher wanted to face in the ninth inning with the game on the line was Tony Oliva.
Yeah.
Right? That's Burt Blyleven. He's a Hall of Fame pitcher. Same with Jim Palmer. I'd asked him, I said, what was your greatest thrill as a pitcher? He said, what was my greatest thrill? It was a game that I struck out Tony Oliva twice, because that was almost impossible to do. To strike him out twice was one of the highlights of my career, and I had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
Right? It's another Hall of Fame pitcher. And so, they held him in great regard.
Absolutely. Well, and it sounds like he's worked with a lot of the new players as well, and things like that, so he's inspired a lot of people.
Yep.
Who inspired him? Who was his favorite growing up?
Guys like Minnie Minoso.
Okay.
So he was a Cuban ball player. He said that he was like the Cuban Jackie Robinson, because he was the first Cuban to make it to the big leagues and be famous, right?
Okay.
And so I know like Minnie Minoso, and he didn't get to hear a lot of the games in the United States on the radio, but he would hear the games in Havana And so that's where he talked about Manyoso. He said there was a song, and the English translation was something like, and it's so funny because if you go back and watch my dad's Hall of Fame speech from Cooperstown, he actually starts singing, when Minnie Manyosa, he hit the ball doing the cha-cha-cha, right? And so there was this whole song about Minnie Manyosa that they would play on Cuban radio.
Yeah.
And so I think that was maybe one of his biggest inspirations. But, then there was all the guys that were playing in that era, Jackie Robinson, Roberto Clemente, Mickey Mantle, all those guys were around too.
Yeah.
Hank Aaron. It's funny because when I say the name Hank Aaron, it reminds me of a picture that I have from when I was a little kid, and you know how they say, it doesn't matter who you are, little kids don't think that you're cool. And so I'm at a baseball game, I'm probably 8 or 9 years old, and my dad's like, come take a picture, I'm like, oh, Dad, I've taken so many pictures today. So I'm sitting there, I'm going like this.
Oh.
And it's my dad, me, and Hank Aaron.
Oh,
and
my
Like,
goodness.
ugh.
How awesome. That's awesome.
And I couldn't look more annoyed than that.
I have one last question for you.
Sure.
So in writing your book, and this is the second, it's a revision of the first book.
Yes.
What didn't you know about your dad that you found out by writing the book that surprised you? It was maybe through the interviews that I did, just how, like, I knew, because when I was little, I knew that he had a hard time getting a hold of his family, because he'd say, oh, come. We got him on the line so we could talk, because it was really expensive, so we'd talk for 30 seconds, say, oh, come on, and that was about all we could say, and my dad would say a few words to them, and he'd be on the phone for a few minutes. But one of the things was just how sad he was. And I had asked him the question once. I said, knowing what you knew now, if you would have known that you wouldn't have been able to see your family, go back home, would you have come? He said no, and I asked him a long time ago. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I really believe that, because that's easy to say once you hear, like, oh, I wouldn't have done it. It's like, but, I'm at the top of the mountain. Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have climbed it, but I'm here. Yeah. But no, like Bob Costas even asked him that Hall of Fame weekend. Like, he's getting into the Hall of Fame. And he asks him, when if you knew that you weren't going to see your mother for 10, 11 years, would you have left Cuba? Knowing everything that you know now, he said, no, I wouldn't have. So wow.
Just maybe it wasn't a surprise, but reinforcing his dedication to family, and it really informs all of the things that I see him do in the community, and for us, and for his family, and for his family in Cuba still, and for his Cuban family that's still, or that's been able to come here to the United States.
So no Hay Problema.
No Hay Problema. The amazing story of Tony Oliva. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing it. Great guy, story of perseverance and very inspiring. So, and you can follow you on YouTube as well. You have your YouTube channel. Yep. So it's on YouTube. So I did my gift to the world on December 24th is I released an audiobook version, because I always said, this isn't my story, this is my dad's story, and everybody should be able to hear it. Okay. So as long as you have an internet connection for free, you can hear the story, and you can see the pages from the book. And we'll look for it.
Yep, and so you can go on YouTube. You can also find more information about the book and some of the backstory and some of the making of on my website.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Thank you for joining us on the Republican Roundtable. We'll see you next time.